She had a one-night stand with the billionaire CEO. Months later he saw her stranded and begging in the rain. "Where were you when I was begging clinics for prenatal care I couldn't afford? Where were you when I got evicted because I couldn't make rent? Where were you, Leonard?" Mireya's voice cracked as she stood in the billionaire's kitchen, wearing his oversized sweatshirt, her pregnant belly visible between them like an accusation. Leonard Hale, the man worth billions, the CEO who commanded boardrooms with a single glance, could only grip the marble counter and whisper the truth that shattered him. "I was building an empire. I was closing deals and impressing investors and thinking I was so important. I was nowhere that mattered. This is the story of a man who had everything money could buy but nothing his soul needed. A story of a woman who lost everything except her dignity. And one rainy night that would rewrite both their destinies. If you've ever wondered whether some mistakes are too big to forgive, or whether love can grow from the ashes of betrayal, stay with me. Because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you think you know about second chances. But before we dive deeper, if stories about redemption, real love, and life-changing decisions speak to your heart, hit that like button right now. And subscribe to Mr. Steven's Stories because we're just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. 6 months before that confrontation in the kitchen. 6 months before everything changed. The bass thundered through the rooftop venue, vibrating in Leonard's chest as he stood at the edge of the crowd, champagne glass in hand, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold below. Another startup launch party. Another night of forced networking and hollow congratulations. He'd built his company, Tech Fusion, from a college dorm room idea into a billion-dollar empire. At 32, he had everything. Except he felt absolutely nothing. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else." The voice came from his left. Leonard turned to find a woman in a simple black dress, holding a wine glass and watching him with curious, intelligent eyes. She wasn't dressed like the other guests. No designer labels, no dripping jewelry, no calculated smile. Just genuine interest. "Is it that obvious?" Leonard asked, surprised to find himself smiling. Only to someone who feels the same way. She extended her hand. "Mireya Stone. I'm crashing this party, actually. My friend dragged me here, then disappeared with some venture capitalist 20 minutes ago." Leonard shook her hand, feeling warmth spread through him at the contact. "Leonard Hale. And technically, this is my party, so you have my permission to crash it." Mireya's eyes widened. "Oh God. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult your event. It's actually very nice. The champagne is excellent. The view is spectacular. But you'd rather be anywhere else?" Leonard finished, grinning. She laughed, and the sound cut through the party noise like a bell. "Exactly." They talked for hours. About everything and nothing. She told him about her dreams of becoming a designer, how she'd studied fashion in Paris but came back to help her younger sister through college. He told her about the loneliness of success, how every relationship felt transactional, how he couldn't remember the last time someone looked at him and didn't see dollar signs. As the party wound down and the crowd thinned, they found themselves alone on a quiet corner of the rooftop. The city sprawled beneath them, infinite and indifferent. "You're lonelier than I am," Mireya said softly, touching his face with unexpected tenderness. Leonard felt something crack open inside him. Something he'd kept locked away for years behind spreadsheets and stock options and strategic 5-year plans. He kissed her, and she kissed him back, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt alive. They went back to his penthouse. They talked until dawn, shared wine and stories and touches that felt more intimate than anything he'd experienced. When she fell asleep in his bed, her hair spread across his pillow like dark silk, Leonard watched her and thought maybe, just maybe, this could be something real. But when morning light crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows, fear crept in with it. This woman made him feel too much. Made him want things he'd convinced himself he didn't need. Connection. Vulnerability. Love. So Leonard Hale, the man who'd built an empire on calculated risks, made the biggest mistake of his life. He got dressed in the pre-dawn darkness. He didn't leave a note. Didn't leave his number. He just left. He told himself it was better this way. She'd been a beautiful detour, but he had a company to run, a reputation to maintain, expectations to meet. His mother, Serena Hale, had already chosen his future wife. Cecilia Park, daughter of a powerful investor, perfect on paper, perfectly wrong for him. Leonard threw himself back into work. Board meetings. Acquisitions. 18-hour days that left no room for regret. Except late at night, alone in his penthouse, he'd remember Mireya's laugh. The way she'd seen through him. The way she'd made him feel human. 6 months passed. Leonard closed the biggest deal of his career. His company's valuation doubled. Forbes put him on their cover. He had everything. And he felt absolutely nothing. Now let me bring you to that rainy night. The night everything changed. The rain fell like judgment on the streets of Riverbank City, each drop hitting Leonard's windshield with accusatory force. He'd stayed late at the office again. 3 board meetings. 2 conference calls with Tokyo. 1 rejected merger proposal that would have doubled his already obscene wealth. Leonard loosened his tie with one hand, eyes fixed on the road ahead. The streets were nearly empty at this hour. Just him and the rain and the crushing weight of success that felt more like failure with each passing day. Then his headlights caught something that made his breath stop. A figure on a bench. Soaked through. Visibly pregnant. Leonard's logical mind said keep going. You have a penthouse waiting. A hot shower. Imported whiskey. The chaos of someone else's life isn't your responsibility. But something visceral, something he couldn't name, made him slow down. Then reverse. As the car's light swept across the bench again, recognition hit him like a physical blow. Mireya. The woman from the rooftop party. The one he'd walked away from. The one who touched his face and seen straight through to his lonely soul. Now she sat in the rain, one hand protective over her swollen belly, the other clutching a plastic bag that looked impossibly small to contain someone's entire life. Leonard parked and stepped into the downpour. The cold shocked his system, but he barely noticed. 20 feet separated them. It felt like miles. Mireya. Her head snapped up, eyes widening with recognition, then hardening with something worse. Shame. She stood quickly, too quickly, swaying slightly as she gathered her meager belongings. Don't, she said, voice rough. Just don't. You're soaking wet. Please, let me. Let you what? Her laugh was bitter, broken. Play hero. Ease your conscience. I'm fine, Leonard. I've been fine for months without you. But she wasn't fine. Leonard could see the exhaustion carved into her face, the way her coat, threadbare and too thin, clung to her frame. Her lips had a bluish tinge. She was shivering so hard her teeth chattered between words. I'm not leaving you here, he said quietly. You're good at leaving. The words landed like stones. You've had practice. He deserved that. He deserved worse. But the rain was getting heavier, and Mireya looked like she might collapse any second. Hate me tomorrow, Leonard said, moving closer. Tonight, just let me get you warm. Please. Something in his voice, the crack in it, perhaps, or the naked desperation, made her resistance crumble. She nodded once, sharply, and let him guide her to the car. The drive to his house was silent except for the rhythmic swish of windshield wipers. Leonard kept glancing at her. The way she held herself so carefully, as if she might shatter. The way her hand never left her belly. His mind raced with questions he didn't know how to ask. How did this happen? Why didn't you call? Is it mine? But the answers terrified him more than the questions. The house, a modern architectural marvel of glass and steel, loomed before them. Mireia stared up at it, something unreadable crossing her face. Of course you live here, she murmured. Of course you do. Inside, warmth enveloped them. Leonard grabbed towels from the bathroom, handed her dry clothes that would be comically large on her smaller frame. She disappeared into the guest room without a word. When she emerged 20 minutes later, hair damp but no longer dripping, wearing his old university sweatshirt like a dress, Leonard had soup waiting. Homemade. Something his late grandmother had taught him to make, back when his life still had tenderness in it. Mireia sat at the kitchen island, hands wrapped around the bowl like it was precious. She ate slowly, deliberately, as if rationing pleasure. When is the last time you had a hot meal? Leonard asked, then immediately regretted the question when her eyes flashed. What do you want me to say? That I've been struggling. That some days I choose between eating and keeping a roof over my head. She set down her spoon with forced calm. Would that make you feel better or worse? Worse, he admitted. Definitely worse. The honesty seemed to surprise her. Some of the hardness left her expression. I had a job, she said quietly. At a design studio. It was a small place, but it was mine. They let me go when I started showing. Said I'd be unreliable. Said clients wouldn't feel comfortable with a pregnant woman handling their accounts. She laughed bitterly. My sister, she's been trying to help, but she's barely making rent herself. Working 2 jobs to finish college. Leonard felt each word like a blade. The baby. His voice came out strangled. Is it? Yours? Mireia's laugh was soft, sad. Yes, Leonard. You're going to be a father. Surprise. The world tilted. Leonard gripped the counter, processing words that should have felt catastrophic but instead felt like relief. Terror. Hope. All at once. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? Mireia's eyes blazed now. I don't have your number. Don't know where you work, really, beyond something in tech. You made it very clear that night was just a night. She met his gaze directly. Besides, what would I have said? Remember me? We made a mistake together. Want to raise it? You're not a mistake, Leonard said fiercely. The baby isn't a mistake. Easy to say now, when I'm sitting in your kitchen wearing your clothes. Mireia's voice cracked. Where were you when I was begging clinics for prenatal care I couldn't afford? Where were you when I got evicted because I couldn't make rent? Where were you, Leonard? And there it was. The question that had been building since he'd found her in the rain. The accusation that hung between them, unanswerable. I was building an empire, he said finally, voice hollow. I was closing deals and impressing investors and thinking I was so important. He looked at her, really looked at her. I was nowhere that mattered. Mireia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I don't need your guilt. What do you need? The question seemed to undo something in her. A sob escaped, then another. Leonard moved instinctively, wrapping his arms around her as she broke. She fought it for a moment, pride warring with exhaustion, then surrendered, crying into his chest with the force of months of held-back despair. I need to stop being so tired, she whispered against him. I need to stop being so scared. Then stay, Leonard said into her hair. Stay here. Let me help. Let me try to be what I should have been from the start. He felt her shake her head. Your family. I don't care. Your fiancé. Leonard pulled back to look at her. What fiancé? The woman in all the society photos with you. Cecilia something. Cecilia Park, he said, tasting bitterness. My mother's choice, not mine. An arrangement, not a relationship. I haven't seen her in weeks. I don't love her. I never did. Still. Mireia. He cupped her face gently. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to do the right thing. Finally. Please. In her eyes, he saw the war between pride and exhaustion, between independence and desperate need. Slowly, painfully, she nodded. Neither of them knew that this moment, this fragile agreement born of rain and regret, would be the first step towards something neither expected. A love built not on passion's illusion, but on the harder, truer foundation of choosing each other every day. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the city clean. Morning came soft and golden through the guest room windows. Mireia woke in a bed that felt like clouds, wrapped in sheets that probably cost more than her entire month's rent used to be. For a moment, she let herself pretend this was normal. That she belonged here. Then reality crashed back. She was Charity. A problem to be solved. A mistake Leonard was trying to fix with money and guilt. She found him in the kitchen, already dressed in another perfect suit, making coffee with the kind of expensive machine that probably required a manual. I set up an account for you, he said without preamble. For whatever you need. Doctor visits. Clothes. Food. Anything. Mireia's spine stiffened. I don't want your money, Leonard. It's not about what you want. He turned to face her. It's about what's right. That baby is half mine. I should have been supporting you from the beginning. You can't just throw money at this and call it fixed. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm trying to help. The words hung between them, fragile as glass. Mireia wanted to refuse. Wanted to walk out with her head high. But her feet hurt constantly now. She hadn't been able to afford new shoes in months. The baby kicked, as if reminding her that pride was a luxury neither of them could afford. Okay, she said quietly. But I'm not staying here long. Just until I get back on my feet. Leonard nodded, though something in his eyes suggested he had other plans. As long as you need. That afternoon, Mrs. Serena Hale arrived unannounced. Leonard had been in a video conference when he heard his mother's voice echoing through the house, sharp with displeasure. Leonard James Hale. Where are you? He ended the call and rushed downstairs to find his mother standing in the foyer, designer handbag clutched like a weapon, staring at Mireia who'd emerged from the guest quarters. Mother, Leonard said carefully. I wasn't expecting you. Clearly. Serena's gaze swept over Mireia, taking in the borrowed clothes, the visible pregnancy, the defensive posture. Who is this? This is Mireia Stone, Leonard said, moving to stand beside her. She's a guest. And she's carrying my child. The silence that followed was deafening. Serena's face went through a series of transformations. Shock. Fury. Calculation. Your child, she repeated, voice like ice. How convenient. Tell me, dear, when did you trap my son? Before or after you learned about his net worth? Mireia flinched but stood her ground. I didn't trap anyone. Your son made his own choices. Mother, Leonard's voice carried a warning. That's enough. Serena turned on him. Do you have any idea what this looks like? You're engaged to Cecilia Park. Her father is our biggest investor. This, she gestured at Mireia, could destroy everything we've built. I'm not engaged to Cecilia, Leonard said firmly. That was your arrangement, not mine. And I don't care how it looks. You don't care. Serena's voice rose. Your father and I built this company from nothing. We made you who you are. And now you're throwing it all away for some girl you barely know. I know enough, Leonard said quietly. I know I'm going to be a father. I know I have a responsibility. And I know that I'm done letting you dictate my life. Serena's eyes narrowed. Choose carefully, Leonard. Her or your inheritance. Her or your position in this family. Her or everything your father worked for. The ultimatum hung in the air, heavy with threat. Leonard felt Mireia tense beside him. He could sense her preparing to leave, to sacrifice herself to protect him from this choice. But looking at his mother's cold, calculating face, Leonard realized something. He'd spent his whole life trying to earn her approval. Building the company bigger. Making the right connections. Dating the right women. And he'd never felt more empty. I choose what's right, he said simply. I choose my child. If that means losing everything else, so be it. Serena's face went white with rage. You're making a mistake. Then it's mine to make. His mother left in a storm of fury and threats, the front door slamming with finality. In the echoing silence, Leonard turned to find Mireia watching him with wide eyes. You didn't have to do that, she whispered. Yes, he said. I did. Something shifted between them in that moment. Not forgiveness, exactly. But the first fragile shoots of trust beginning to grow. If you're moved by Leonard's choice, by the courage it takes to do what's right even when it costs you everything, take a second to hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear that standing up for what matters is always worth it. And don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Stephen's Stories. We're just getting to the good part. The following week brought Cecilia Park. She arrived with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and concern that felt rehearsed. Leonard, darling, she said, sweeping into the house as if she owned it. I heard about your little situation. I'm here to help. Mireia, sitting in the living room with a book, felt the other woman's gaze slide over her with practiced dismissal. Cecilia, Leonard said carefully. This isn't a good time. Nonsense. We're practically family. She settled onto the couch, arranging herself with deliberate elegance. I'm sure we can come to some arrangement. A quiet settlement. A nice apartment somewhere discreet. No one needs to know about any of this unpleasantness. Mireia stood, dignity radiating from her despite her borrowed clothes. I'm not unpleasantness. I'm a person. And this baby is a person. We're not going anywhere. Cecilia's smile sharpened. How noble. Tell me, do you really think Leonard will choose you over his empire? Over his reputation? Men like him don't throw away everything for women like you. Women like me. Mireia's voice stayed steady even as anger flared in her eyes. You know what I mean. Cecilia waved a manicured hand. You're a lovely distraction. But distractions fade. Reality doesn't. That's enough. Leonard's voice cut through the tension. Cecilia, we were never engaged. Not really. Our families had an arrangement. I'm ending it. Cecilia stood, composure cracking. You're throwing away everything we could have built together. For what? A one-night stand and an accident? She's not an accident, Leonard said quietly, looking at Mireia. Neither is the baby. And whatever we build from here will be real. That's worth more than any arrangement. After Cecilia left, promising vague threats about his reputation, Leonard found Mireia on the back terrace, staring out at the city. You didn't have to defend me, she said without turning. Yes, he said, coming to stand beside her. I did. They stood in silence for a while. Finally, Mireia spoke. I used to have dreams, you know. Design dreams. I wanted to create clothes that made women feel beautiful. Not expensive clothes. Accessible ones. For real women with real bodies and real lives. You still can, Leonard said. She laughed sadly. Hard to chase dreams when you're just trying to survive. What if you didn't have to choose? Over the following weeks, something unexpected happened. Leonard and Mireia built a routine. Morning coffee, though hers was decaf now. Evening meals together. Conversations that stretched late into the night. Leonard learned about her childhood, raised by loving parents in Oak Ridge Valley who taught her that worth wasn't measured in bank accounts. About her sister, brilliant and determined, working her way through medical school. About the design sketches she still drew late at night when she couldn't sleep. Mireia learned about Leonard's father, who died when Leonard was 20, leaving him a struggling company and a mother who measured love in quarterly earnings. About the loneliness of success. About how he'd forgotten how to want anything beyond the next acquisition. One night, Leonard found Mireia in the study, surrounded by sketch paper, pencils flying across the page. "Can I see?" he asked. She hesitated, then turned the sketchbook toward him. The designs were beautiful. Flowing lines and practical elegance. Clothes that looked both aspirational and achievable. "These are incredible," Leonard said, genuine awe in his voice. "They're just dreams. Dreams are where everything starts." He looked at her seriously. "What if we made them real?" "Leonard? I'm serious. We could start small. A studio space. Materials. You design. I'll handle the business side. Partner with you, not for you." Mireia's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I'm tired of building empires that mean nothing." He reached out, hesitated, then took her hand. "Because maybe if I help you build your dream, I'll figure out what mine actually is." She squeezed his hand. "This doesn't fix everything, you know. What you did. Leaving." "I know," he said. "But maybe it's a start." Their first doctor's appointment together changed something fundamental. Leonard drove Mireia to the clinic, his hands tight on the steering wheel, anxiety radiating from him. In the examination room, as the ultrasound technician moved the wand over Mireia's belly, Leonard stood frozen, staring at the screen. "There's the heartbeat," the technician said, and suddenly the room filled with a rapid, watery thumping. Leonard's eyes went wide. He reached out blindly, found Mireia's hand, gripped it like a lifeline. "That's our baby," he whispered. "That's really our baby." Mireia watched him, saw the moment fatherhood became real to him, and felt something in her own heart begin to thaw. After the appointment, Leonard helped her into the car with a gentleness that surprised them both. "I missed so much already," he said quietly. "The first trimester. The first time you felt the baby move. I can't get that back." "No," Mireia agreed. "You can't. But I'm here now. I'm here for all of it from now on. Doctor visits. Midnight cravings. Bad days and good days. I'm here." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the truth in his eyes. "Prove it." "I will," he promised. "Every day. I'll prove it." And he did. When Mireia's feet swelled, he researched pregnancy massage and learned to rub them gently. When she craved impossible food combinations at 2 in the morning, he drove across the city to find them. When she had nightmares about being alone, he sat with her until dawn, just talking. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the space between them began to close. 2 months after that rainy night, Mrs. Serena Hale returned. But this time, she didn't come in anger. She came quietly, almost hesitantly, carrying a small wrapped box. Leonard found her in the foyer, looking smaller somehow. Uncertain. "Mother. I came to apologize," Serena said, the words clearly difficult for her. "To both of you." Mireia appeared from the hallway, cautious. "May I sit?" Serena asked. They settled in the living room, an awkward triangle of tension. "I've spent the last 2 months thinking," Serena began. "About your father. About what he would say if he could see me now." She looked at Leonard. Your father built the company, yes. But he always said family came first. I forgot that. I let business become more important than people. She turned to Mireya. I was cruel to you. I made assumptions. I'm sorry. Mireya nodded slowly. Thank you. Serena opened the wrapped box, revealing a small photo album. This was Leonard's father's favorite thing. Pictures of Leonard growing up. She smiled sadly. He used to say that watching his son grow was his greatest accomplishment. Not the company. Not the money. Just being a father. She handed the album to Leonard, then pulled out an ultrasound photo. I saw this on your desk when I was here before. I looked at it, really looked at it, and I realized something. She met Leonard's eyes. I'm looking at my grandson. Leonard's throat tightened. Mom. I don't want to miss this, Serena whispered. Any of it. I know I don't deserve another chance, but if you'll allow it, I'd like to be part of this baby's life. Part of all your lives. Mireya surprised everyone, including herself. Families are complicated, she said softly. Mine isn't perfect either. But they taught me that forgiveness is a choice you make every day. If you're willing to make that choice, so am I. Serena's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. As fall deepened, Leonard made a decision. He wanted Mireya to meet his family, her family. The people who'd shaped the woman she'd become. The drive to Oak Ridge Valley took 3 hours. Leonard was nervous, expecting poverty based on everything Mireya had told him about struggling. He prepared himself to be gracious, to not show shock. When they pulled up to a beautiful craftsman home with a well-tended garden and a Mercedes in the driveway, Leonard's assumptions shattered. Your family is, he started. Comfortable? Mireya smiled. Yes. They are. But you were struggling. The eviction. The job. That was my choice, Mireya said quietly. When my sister got into medical school, my parents offered to pay. But she has her pride. She wanted to do it herself. So I helped her. I took a smaller apartment. A lower-paying job that gave me time to help her study. I chose her over comfort. Leonard felt humbled. You gave up everything for her. Not everything. Just money. She looked at him. Money's the easy part to give up. Inside, Mireya's parents, David and Claire Stone, welcomed Leonard with genuine warmth that had nothing to do with his net worth. Claire hugged her daughter, then turned to Leonard with kind eyes. So you're the one who made our daughter cry for months. Leonard paled. Mrs. Stone, I. Claire held up a hand. But you're also the one who's making her smile now. That counts for something. She studied him. The question is, will you keep making her smile? I'll try, Leonard said honestly. Every day. David Stone clapped him on the shoulder. That's all any of us can do. Try. Over dinner, a simple but delicious meal, Leonard learned what real wealth looked like. The way David looked at Claire after 40 years of marriage. The pride in their voices when they talked about their daughters. The grace with which they'd welcomed a stranger who'd hurt someone they loved. You have a beautiful home, Leonard said. David smiled. A home isn't beautiful because of what's in it. It's beautiful because of who fills it. Later, on the drive back to Riverbank City, Mireya dozed in the passenger seat. Leonard glanced at her, at the gentle swell of her belly, at the peaceful expression on her face, and felt something he'd never felt before. Contentment. He'd spent his whole life measuring success in acquisitions and market share. But sitting in that modest home, watching people who loved each other simply enjoy being together, he realized he'd been measuring the wrong things. If this story is touching your heart, if you're seeing yourself in these characters, take a moment to comment below. Tell me about second chances. Tell me about choosing what matters. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Mr. Steven Stories. Hit that notification bell. Because this journey is about to reach its most powerful moment yet. 3 weeks later, on a crisp morning in late October, Mireia woke Leonard at 4 a.m. "Leonard," she said, her voice tight. "It's time. Time for." He sat up, groggy. "The baby. It's time." Leonard's eyes went wide. "Now. But you're not due for another 2 weeks. Tell that to your son." The drive to the hospital was a blur. Leonard tried to remember every breathing technique he'd learned in the birthing classes they'd attended together. Mireia gripped his hand, breathing through contractions. In the delivery room, as hours stretched and Mireia's pain intensified, Leonard felt helpless. All his money, all his power, meant nothing here. He could only hold her hand and whisper encouragement. "You're amazing," he said, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth. "You're so strong." "I'm scared," she admitted between contractions. "Me too," he said honestly. "But we're in this together." When Eli James Hale finally entered the world at 2:17 p.m., his cry filled the room like music. The nurse placed him on Mireia's chest, and Leonard watched through tears as she held their son for the first time. "He's perfect," Mireia whispered. "Look at him, Leonard. He's perfect." Leonard touched his son's tiny hand, felt impossibly small fingers wrap around his thumb, and felt his entire world realign. "Hi, Eli," he whispered. "I'm your dad. I'm sorry I wasn't here from the beginning, but I promise, I'm never leaving you. Either of you." He looked at Mireia, seeing her exhausted, radiant, holding their child, and the words came out before he could stop them. "Marry me." Mireia's eyes widened. "What? Not because of the baby. Not because of obligation. Because I love you." Leonard's voice shook. "I fell in love with you that night on the rooftop, and I was too scared to admit it. I've spent every day since trying to prove I'm worthy of a second chance. Marry me, Mireia. Not someday. Now. Soon. Please." Mireia looked down at Eli, then back at Leonard. "You really want this? Us? All the chaos and mess and reality? I've never wanted anything more." She smiled, tears streaming down her face. "Yes. Yes, Leonard. I'll marry you." 2 months later, in a garden ceremony with only their closest family, Leonard and Mireia became husband and wife. Eli slept peacefully in his grandmother Serena's arms, while Mireia's parents beamed from the front row. Mireia wore a dress of her own design, simple and elegant. Leonard couldn't take his eyes off her. When it came time for vows, Leonard took both her hands. 6 months ago, I thought I had everything. I was wrong. I had nothing that mattered. You taught me what real wealth looks like. It looks like late-night conversations. It looks like choosing someone over comfort. It looks like forgiveness I didn't earn but you gave anyway." He looked down at Eli. "It looks like our son. Our family. This moment. I promise to choose you every day. To be present. To be grateful. To never forget how lucky I am." Mireia smiled through tears. 6 months ago, I sat on a bench in the rain, pregnant and alone, convinced I'd been forgotten. You found me. You chose me. You proved that some people, some love, is worth the wait. I promise to trust you. To build dreams with you. To remind you, when you forget, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. As they kissed, as their families cheered, as Eli made a small sound in his sleep, Leonard thought about the journey that had brought them here. The mistakes. The pain. The slow, difficult work of building trust. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been perfect. But it had been real. And that, he finally understood, was everything. 3 years later, the Hale family, Leonard, Mireya, and now 3-year-old Eli, stood in front of a building in downtown Riverbank City. The sign above the door read Stone Designs, Mireya Hale, Creative Director. Inside, 10 employees worked on Mireya's clothing line, designs for real women at accessible prices. The company was small but growing, profitable but principled. "You did it," Leonard said, squeezing his wife's hand. "We did it," she corrected. "I design. You handle the boring business stuff." "Hey, the boring business stuff keeps the lights on." Eli tugged on Leonard's pants. "Daddy, can we get ice cream now?" Leonard laughed, scooping up his son. "Absolutely. What flavor?" "All of them." As they walked down the street, a family, Leonard thought about that rainy night 3 years ago. The night that changed everything. If someone had told him then that losing his pride would gain him everything, he wouldn't have believed them. But standing here now, listening to his wife laugh at their son's sticky ice cream face, watching other families pass by in the evening light, he understood something profound. The best things in life aren't built. They're chosen. Every single day. You choose to stay when it's easier to leave. You choose to forgive when it's easier to hold grudges. You choose to love, even when love is messy and complicated and hard. That night, after Eli was asleep, Leonard found Mireya in their home office, sketching new designs. "Come to bed," he said. "In a minute. This idea just hit me." He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her, looked at her beautiful drawings. "Remember when you told me these were just dreams?" She leaned back against him. "You've reminded me of that about 1,000 times. Because dreams aren't just dreams. They're blueprints for reality. You taught me that." Mireya turned in his arms. "I love you, Leonard Hale. I love you too." He kissed her softly. "Thank you for waiting in the rain that night. For giving me a second chance I didn't deserve." She smiled. "Thank you for stopping the car. For choosing what mattered." They stood together in the quiet house, their son sleeping peacefully down the hall, their future stretching out before them like a promise. Some love stories start with fireworks. Others start with mistakes. The best ones start with a choice. To stay. To fight. To forgive. To build something real from the broken pieces of what could have been. Leonard and Mireya chose each other. Every single day. And that choice made all the difference. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that it's never too late to choose what matters, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear that second chances are real. That love can grow from the most unlikely places. That mistakes don't define you, but what you do after them does. Subscribe to Mr. Stephen's Stories for more powerful narratives about real love, real redemption, and real transformation. Drop a comment telling me what this story meant to you. What choices are you making today? Remember, the rain washes everything clean. Sometimes you have to get caught in the storm to find your way home. Sometimes the person you're looking for has been waiting for you all along. Sometimes all it takes is the courage to stop the car, get out in the rain, and choose love over fear. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, your story isn't over. The best chapters might still be waiting to be written. You just have to be brave enough to turn the page. Until next time, this is Mr. Stephen, reminding you that every ending is just a new beginning in disguise.